Well, hello, BookTube. Welcome back to my humble little channel, The History Shelf. We are doing a very overdue book haul from one of my favorite bargain book outlets, and you know it. And I am going to hunt down the CEO of this company to say, why are we not collaborating? I've spent thousands of dollars at this place over the years. I mean, we're talking a good 20 years or so of purchasing from where else but my ultimate favorite, above Book Outlet, above Thrift Books. I know a lot of you do Book Depository, Books A Million. Nah, that's crap. It's all crap. It's crap unless you do HamiltonBook.com, baby. It's the best bargain wholesale outlet. You know, it's the best. I love the prices. I love the selection, and they're constantly updating. I get so excited, you guys, when I get an email because I'm on their newsletter or whatever it is, their little alerts. I get an email saying new arrivals are here. Boom! I drop everything. I go to the new arrivals. I'll link to HamiltonBook.com in the description box below. But check them out because if you're looking for bargain books, it ranges anywhere from like $195 upwards to $995, and anywhere in between. There's books that are more than that, but I don't buy new books at Hamilton Book. I buy books that are, backlisted books that have been around for a few years or longer, and they are just so darned. It's what can I say? I know that a lot of people are like, well, $6.95, $7.95. That's a lot to some people, and I get it. Times are tough, but if you are, saving your pennies and you're wanting to do some book shopping, really, the best bang for your buck is HamiltonBook.com. This hands down, I think, and it's a $4 flat shipping fee, no matter how much you're buying. They don't care. It's just $4 shipping. So I mean, it's a no-brainer. Okay, so the last, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just, and I know a lot of you have become converts to HamiltonBook.com, and you just add things to your cart that you see on this channel, and that tickles me to no end. So usually I will have a cart going, and I never know. I may check it out or I may not. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But anyway, this batch is a mixture, obviously, of, as it usually does, history, historical fiction, literature, biography, politics, whatever. It's just nonfiction. I usually have a nice assortment. So I'm not sure where to begin, but let's just begin. Let's start with this one because everyone loves this. I've been meaning to get a bigger. I had, a broken down old paperback, mass market paperback of this novel, which I want to finally read it. When I was sick with the flu over Christmas and New Year's, and it was so horrible, the miniseries of this book was on, and it sucked me right back in again. I had seen it already, but it just reminded me how much I love the story, and that is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. And look at this nice volume that they have at Hamilton Book right now. This version is the Simon and Schuster paperbacks, so it's not your mass market. It's a nice. It really just it opens up very nicely. You see, I like that. I don't need to say much more about Lonesome Dove. Everyone knows about Lonesome Dove, but I really liked this this copy. And you know what? I had, let me see if I have my price list to show you how much I spent on this. Oh, this is from the second book haul. I've got my invoices mixed up. But anyway, probably this one was probably like $5.95 or $6.95. But it's sturdy, it's clean, it's brand new, except for one little remainder mark. So that's where I picked up Lonesome Dove, baby, for a song. So I'm happy to add that to my collection, and at some point I need to schedule that into my reading. Maybe summertime. And what is Peggy drinking? Let's show you. This is a very tasty flavor from Polar Seltzer. This is pink apple and lemon. This tastes like a little bit of fall, actually. You take a sip and it makes you think of, the apple orchards out in the fall when you go and pick out your own apples. It's delicious. All right, so we're going to move on from that to this is memoir, and I really enjoy military memoirs, people who have fought in wars, their experiences, whatever war it is. And I'm familiar a little bit with this author. I think, maybe not, but I've heard of him. This is In Pharaoh's Army, Memories of the Lost War by Tobias Wolff. Let's see here. It's a slim little volume. It's from Vintage paperbacks. Very cheap. Let's see here. In this boy's life, Tobias Wolff created an unforgettable memoir of an American childhood. Now he gives us a precisely and sometimes pitilessly remembered account of his young manhood, a young manhood that became entangled in the tragic adventure that was Vietnam. Traversing an arc that leads from paratroopers' jump school to the carnage of the Tet Offensive, Wolff recreates a war where survival depends less on skill than it does on blind luck and the ability to look inoffensive. The Americans are pitiable in their innocence and terrifying in their capacity for uncomprehending destruction. The Allies are malicious, practical jokers. And a successful mission is one that nets Wolff a stolen color television set, the better to watch Bonanza on Thanksgiving Day. Mordantly funny, searingly honest, In Pharaoh's Army is a war memoir in the tradition of George Orwell and Michael Hare. So, I wanted to get this because the last year or so, I've been picking up a nice wide variety of either in print or e-galleys and PDFs of memoirs for men who were in Vietnam. And I've been really riveted by those tales. And when I saw this in my browsing in Hamilton Book, I was like, this is going in the cart. So that one is a winner, looks like to me. Where are we going to switch to? One of my last book hauls, guys, I showed you oh no, I didn't. It was New History. There was a second volume that had just released from Pegasus Books about a history of the mafia in America. You guys remember that? It was called Borgata, and it had like a blue cover. I've already moved it to another room for shelving, so I don't have it with me. But I had told you in that video that when I saw that was out, I was like, oh, I didn't even realize there was a volume 1. I didn't even know about this series, which I think is going to be a trilogy, the Borgata trilogy. But I had seen it. Volume 1 is on Hamilton Book. At least when I shopped. It should still be there if you guys are interested. And here it is. It's got a nice bright red cover. So is Borgata, Rise of Empire, History of the American Mafia, Volume 1. Okay. This one came out 2024, and I think the second one is releasing very soon. I was able to get a review copy of that. So I want to read these in order, obviously. So I'm going to start with this one. But let me give you a little bit of input on this first volume and what that covers. It goes from 1860s Sicily to 1960s America. And it's narrated by a former heist expert and Gambino family mobster. So he knows of what he speaks. It says here, in Borgata, Rise of Empire, former mobster Louis Ferrante pulls back the curtain on the criminal organization that transformed America. From the potent political cauldron of 19th century Sicily to New Orleans, New York, and the gangster paradise of Las Vegas, Ferrante traces the social, economic, and political forces that powered the mafia's unstoppable rise. Ferrante's vivid portrayal of early American mobsters, Lucky Luciano, Vito Genovese, Frank Costello, and Meyer Lansky, fills in crucial gaps of the mafia narrative to deliver the most comprehensive account yet of the world's most famous criminal fraternity. This book, the first in a 3-volume epic history, is a groundbreaking achievement from a man who has seen it all from the inside. In this masterful accomplishment, Ferrante takes the reader from the mafia's inauspicious beginnings to the heights of their power as the most influential criminal network in the country. So, yes, I'm down with that. Always been fascinated by that. Big fan of mafia movies, mobster movies, and Martine loves the classic movies, Little Caesar, Jimmy Cagney, right? James Cagney. And wait, is it James Cagney? She's gonna be mad at me. Well, Little Caesar. Yeah. Anyway, from that to like what do we got? We got Godfather. We've got Goodfellas. We've got The Sopranos, and a ton of different movies in between. I've always loved a really good. Oh, and The Irishman, which actually was really good. I thought very long but very good. I've always been a big fan of that. So I was happy to pick up Volume 1. I'm going to read Volume 1 and then I'll hop into Volume 2, and so I'll be ready for Volume 3, which will probably come out next year. But yeah, so I might report back once I've read the first two and let you know what I think. All right, we're going to move on with some hardcovers here. Oh, I was debating on whether to get this book because I have read so much about North Korea, but then I realized this is actually more of an expansive study of the not just North Korea, but North and South, or the making of. Anyway, this is published by One World, and this is on Hamilton Book. This is called Korea, Where the American Century Began by Michael Pembroke. Interesting that Noam Chomsky has a blurb on the front, and A.C. Grayling on the back. I think A.C. Grayling, he wrote about the bombing from the air. What was it? Something about the lying in these dead cities or something. There's so many books. I just have I used to have a photographic memory, and I could catalog in my mind every book. I could know, even though I have thousands of books in my collection, I'm still pretty good. I'd say I'm 98%. If someone shows me a book, I could say, yeah, I have that. But let's see, and I know the name. Okay, so let me give you a description of this book, which came out, I should give you the year it came out, in 2018. Okay, One World Publications is a UK publisher. So it says here, the terrifying posture of Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un that has characterized recent relations between the U.S. and North Korea is not a recent phenomenon. In the 1950s, America's invasion of North Korea, someone missed a comma. See, that's why you need a copy editor. In the 1950s, America's invasion of North Korea was followed by a relentless 3-year bombing campaign targeting cities, towns, and villages. In 1953, an armistice was agreed, but the U.S. did not withdraw, and a peace treaty has never been signed. A few years later, the Pentagon introduced nuclear weapons onto the peninsula, and Washington abrogated the armistice. Ever since, Pyongyang has been determined to develop a credible nuclear deterrent. The Korean War was the first of America's unsuccessful military interventions after the Second World War and its first modern conflict with China. It's true. It established the pattern for the next 60 years and marked the true beginning of the American century, opening the door to ever-increasing defense expenditure and creating the festering geopolitical sore that exists in Northeast Asia today. With compassion for the people of the North and the South, a real understanding of the soldiers caught between the bitter winter and an implacable enemy, an insight into the role of China, and concern about the past and present role of the United States, Michael Pembroke's account of the Korean War could not be more timely. So, it's a small little book to cover the Korean War, but I think it's to be more political than anything else. It's got an addendum with documents in the back. Reproductions of letters from Truman to MacArthur and stuff. This should be good. So I wanted to check it out. Again, everything in this stack is under $10. I have not paid more than $10 for anything of these books that I'm showing you. So I'm guessing this one was probably $5.95 to $6.95. Again, brand new books. And this one doesn't even have a remainder mark. Telling you, Hamilton Book is the best bargain book outlet around. So, got that one. Really happy to have it. And I've been meaning to get this book. I've hemmed and hawed on this, but I've been studying a lot of Jewish history and Holocaust studies and everything else lately. And it just seemed like this book is going to turn me on to, well, not only do I enjoy the topic that it's going to be covering here. Oh, I do have the invoice. I can tell you these prices right now. No, this is even cheaper, guys. This is $4.95. I paid $4.95 for that. Woo! Okay, I'm telling you, it's fantastic. This Borgata was $7.95. Tobias Wolff, $4.95. Lonesome Dove was $5.95. I mean, brand new. It's just... So yeah, I'm going to give you prices as I go along, just to see if it's, in your interest. So this book is called The Blessing and the Curse. And this was $6.95 from Norton. This is, The Blessing and the Curse, the Jewish people and their books in the 20th century. I love stuff like this. I had to have it because I'm going to have more book recommendations just by reading this. It's going to turn me on to books I haven't even heard of, I'm sure. Sorry, and this is by Adam Kirsch. I get all excited and I talk too fast. Came out from Norton. Let's see here. In 2020. All right, so let me give you a little overview here. Following the people in the books, oh shoot. So there's another book that he wrote that I'm probably going to want. Okay, so apparently he wrote a book called The People in the Books, which covers more than 2,500 years of highly variegated Jewish cultural expression. Adam Kirsch now turns to the story of modern Jewish literature. Right on. From the vast emigration of Jews out of Eastern Europe to the Holocaust to the creation of Israel, the 20th century transformed Jewish life. The same was true of Jewish writing. The novels, plays, poems, and memoirs of Jewish writers provided intimate access to new worlds of experience. Kirsch surveys 4 themes that shaped the 20th century in Jewish literature and culture: Europe, America, Israel, and the endeavor to reimagine Judaism as a modern faith. With discussions of major books by over 30 writers ranging from Franz Kafka to Philip Roth, Elie Wiesel to Tony Kushner, Hannah Arendt to Judith Plaskow, he argues that literature offers a new way to think about what it means to be Jewish in the modern world. With a wide scope and diverse original observations, Kirsch draws fascinating parallels between familiar writers and their less familiar counterparts. While everyone knows the Diary of Anne Frank, for example, few outside of Israel have read the Diary of Hannah Senesh. It's true, I've never even heard of her. Kirsch sheds new light on the literature of the Holocaust through the work of Primo Levi. Explores the emergence of America as a Jewish home through the stories of Bernard Malamud, and shows how Yehuda Amichai captured the paradoxes of Israeli identity. It just says the blessing and the curse brings the Jewish experience vividly to life. So, that's kind of what turned me on to this. And I like how each chapter is kind of it speaks to a different piece of literature or work. We've got 3 addresses on Judaism by Martin Buber, and that's in the section Part 4, Making Judaism Modern. But when you go to the front here, of course, it's covering Night by Elie Wiesel, Primo Levi, which I still have not showed you guys. This was years ago that I bought a box set of Primo Levi. I think this was when we were getting ready to move, so everything was getting packed up. But I'm going to pull that out to show you that I got all of his works there, because I have been meaning to tackle. I've read Elie Wiesel, but I want to tackle Primo Levi next. Yeah, and that covers Primo Levi's survival in Auschwitz. So for the price, I definitely need to have it. I think, and this is one of the books that they mark on Hamilton Book as last chance. They'll have a little, on the website, they'll have a little yellow badge on there that says last chance or web exclusive. Boy, do I know that website inside and out. It's bookmarked, I can't say enough about it. But yeah, $6.95 for this one, guys. And it's gonna have a lot of edification for me. I'm feeling weird today. Okay, let's hop over to this. Nope, I'm giving it away. You're seeing too much in the corner. Okay. All right. This one, and I've been meaning to get it, not only for Civil War history, but mostly for Civil War history. Plus, the man just fascinates me. And I've mentioned some other books and other videos where there's been a few books that have come out very recently that tackle, well, one of them for sure is Fear No Pharaoh, which I did a review for, and I've linked it in my social media, which was fantastic. And it was about how American Jews and the quest to, abolish slavery in America. But I learned a lot about during the Civil War, the Jewish people who lived in the South, and some of them really incited with them, even though it made no sense. People who were a people of the Exodus, people who had been slaves, back in the Levant, and further, and the Babylonian exile and all this kind of stuff. You would think that in the mid 19th century that Jewish people coming to America as immigrants would be anti-slavery, abolitionist. But no, there was an interesting subset of Jewish people in the South who felt like it was in their best interest to align with the other, the people in the upper echelons of Southern, House of state representatives, government, because they knew that they were on slippery ground. They didn't want to be targeted for discrimination, so they said, well, let them just discriminate against the African American, and let's leave us out of it. So it's kind of morally cowardly. Do you know what I'm saying? But anyway, this is one person I've always been like, why would he do this? And this is Judah Benjamin, and this is part of the Yale, and I love this series, the Yale University Press Jewish Lives series. I'm sure many of you have seen these books. They have a very similar layout. I'm not going to collect all of these, but I've already got a collection now of like 3 or 4. And this was the most recent one I picked up. This one, did I just say how much that was? Yeah, $5.95 by James Straub. Okay, so I had to get this, and I just finished reading a book. Well, I just mentioned it, right? America, Fear No Pharaoh, and Judah P. Benjamin featured in it quite a bit. Let's see here. Judah Benjamin was the most politically powerful and arguably the most important American Jew of the 19th century. He was also the most widely hated one, not only in the North, but in portions of the South. Benjamin does not deserve our admiration, but like some other figures who have yoked their lives to deplorable causes, he nevertheless deserves our attention. Benjamin was an immigrant striver, like Alexander Hamilton, born like Hamilton in the West Indies and raised in poverty. It's interesting. And he was a Jew in a country where Jews did not occupy important public positions. Yet he shot to the highest levels of law and politics through the sheer force of his brilliance, charm, and bottomless capacity for work. Under other circumstances, we would regard Benjamin as an exemplar of the American art of assimilation. But it was to the South and to the culture of slavery that he assimilated. So do you see where that it's that tension, and it's just it just intrigues me. I'm trying to understand it. So for $5.95, I wanted to get this. I definitely want to add this to my Civil War biography selections. And then I had a second smaller Hamilton book purchase that I made very recently, just last week. And I took one of the books out of it because it kind of fits in more with this. I don't want to separate them. So I picked up another Jewish Lives from the Yale University Press series. And I had to get this one, right? Know the Enemy, baby. That's Karl Marx, Philosophy and Revolution by Shlomo Avineri. And what's interesting is, I don't know how they choose to do it. This one is decollaged. Small little volume, but we've got this decollage. This one does not have decollage. So I don't know what makes people decide to do that. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to collect some of these, but not all, because I've seen the full list of these Jewish lives, and a lot of them I'm like, I don't even know who that person is. But for the important historical figures that really interest me, I'm going to pick those up. So this was the one I picked up for the second Hamilton book haul, and it says here, in his magisterial essay, Benjamin Disraeli, Karl Marx, and the Search for Identity, Isaiah Berlin eloquently argued that Marx's passionate advocacy for the proletariat has to be ascribed to his Jewish ancestry. Quote, it is the oppression of centuries of a people of pariahs, not of a recently risen class, that is speaking in him, end quote. Others have claimed that it was the tradition of Old Testament prophecy that found expression in Marx's messianic vision. Perhaps. But in the cauldron of 19th century revolutionary movements, many who had no Jewish background also shared this political messianism, which could as easily have its roots in the Christian as in the Judaic tradition. Marx cannot be seen as a Jewish thinker, and his knowledge of matters Jewish was minimal, nor did his biography follow any pattern of Jewish life. Yet his Jewish origins and background did leave significant fingerprints in his work, some of them obvious and others less so. One of the aims of this book is to put this background in its proper and balanced perspective. So, yeah, totally. Not a lot of people consider that, how much and to what extent did his identity as a Jew impact any of his writing or his thinking, and that's something that I definitely would like to have it explicated to me by an expert. So we've got Shlomo Avineri tackling Karl Marx in the Jewish Live series. So got those two. Now I didn't get this one. This is not part of my Hamilton book haul. I'm throwing it in just because it's part of the Jewish Live series. But over the holidays, Amazon was marking down tons of University Press books, mostly Yale. I'm telling you right now about a bunch of books from Yale University Press that were seriously marked down. I got this for like $7, brand new off Amazon from Yale University Press. I had to get this one because I'm also very intrigued by the Dreyfus Affair. And this is Alfred Dreyfus, the man at the center of the affair, by Maurice Samuels. This one is deckle-edged too, so I wonder if the Judah P. Benjamin one came out a while ago, and they've since moved to deckle edging. This one came out in 2021. Where are we at time-wise here? This one came out in 2019, so that's interesting. This is the older one. Both of these are on Hamilton Book right now for, I don't have to know. Let's see here. The Marx book was $6.95. So Judah was $5.95. Marx is $6.95. And then this one I picked up on Amazon. And this one I think is yes, 2024. It's very new. So, So right now, at hand, I've got 3 in the Jewish Live series. And whenever I see them marked down, and it's someone I am vaguely aware of or I want to learn more about, I'm going to pick them up because they're just wonderfully written. They're not, it's not going to take you a month to read this. So I love it. Let's see here. Let me read from the dust jacket on the inside here. On January 5th, 1895, Captain Alfred Dreyfus's cries of innocence were drowned out by a mob shouting, "Death to Judas." In this book, Maurice Samuels gives readers new insight into Dreyfus himself, the man at the center of the affair. He tells the story of Dreyfus's early life in Paris, his promising career as a French officer, the false accusation leading to his imprisonment on Devil's Island, the fight to prove his innocence that divided the French nation, and his life of quiet obscurity after World War I. Okay, Samuel's striking perspective is enriched by a newly available archive of more than 3,000 documents and objects donated by the Dreyfus family. Unlike many historians, Samuels argues that Dreyfus was not an, quote, assimilated, end quote, Jew, Rather, he epitomized a new model of Jewish identity made possible by the French Revolution, when France became the first European nation to grant Jews full legal equality. This book analyzes Dreyfus's complex relationship to Judaism and to anti-Semitism over the course of his life, a story that, as global anti-Semitism rises, echoes still. It also shows the profound effect of the Dreyfus Affair on the lives of Jews around the world. So, there you go. I mean, so I've got 3 really, top-notch biographies, slim little biographies on major, Jewish figures in history. And what a great series that Yale University Press puts out. So, yeah, I wanted to share that with you. Okay, we're going to move on now. Try to get this in under 45 minutes. I've talked about this gentleman before, just read his first novel. He's branching out into his fiction, but I really enjoy his books on like leadership and naval history. Well, they're kind of, he draws in leadership lessons in the naval maritime stuff, the history that he talks about. But this is Admiral James Stavridis. This is one of his most recent books, I believe, To Risk It All, 9 Conflicts in the Crucible of Decision. I've got another. This is by Penguin Press. Let me see if I can recall some of his other books here. Okay, we've got Sea Power, Sailing True North. Oh, I have The Leader's Bookshelf. He co-authored a futuristic novel, which I'm going to be showing you soon. I was able to get that and the new book. I think it's like a sequel. But anyway, this one came out in 2022, actually. And this is our author, Admiral James Stavridis. There you go. Nice guy. All right, let me read here. At the heart of Admiral James Stavridis' training as a naval officer was the preparation to lead sailors in combat, to ably face the decisive moment in battle whenever it might arise. In this book, he offers up 9 of the most useful and enthralling stories from the U.S. Navy's nearly 250-year history, and draws from them a set of insights that we can all put to use when confronted with fateful choices. So, just like I was saying, he takes these incidents from history, maritime history, American naval history, and ties them into, a leadership, almost like a mini training, I believe they assigned some of his books at like the Naval Academy and that kind of stuff. So that's what is interesting, because you kind of can jump from, story to story, and I just think it's fascinating. It says here, conflict, crisis, risk. These words have a distinct meaning in a military context that we hope will never apply identically in our own lives. But at the same time, as Admiral Stavridis shows with great clarity, many lessons are universal. Okay. Every leader in this book has real flaws, as all humans do. And the stories of failure, or at least the decisions that have been defined as such, are as crucial as the stories of success. Okay. So let me just kind of run down some of the stories in here. We've got Captain John Paul Jones, The Power of No. All right. Lieutenant Stephen Decatur, A Young Man's Game. Risky Business, Rear Admiral David Farragut. Yeah, hell yeah. Cool Hand George, Commodore George Dewey, which I believe he was the guy for the, don't forget the Maine or whatever, when we went to war against, the one that Teddy Roosevelt was in, that war that everyone forgets about. It's the Spanish-American War or something. I don't know why I'm just having a complete brain fizz on that, but okay. What else do we have here? We've got one lady in here. Pirates of the Gulf of Aden, Rear Admiral Michelle Howard. Way to go. Bull Halsey, and then a couple others that are more modern. So I enjoy his work. And he did a pretty good job on his first novel, so I'm looking forward to his next one. So I picked that up, To Risk It All, $5.95. Just, I want to show you that, I'm not shining you on, as Martine would say, that these prices are real and they're rock bottom for the most part. Oh gosh, I'm running out of time. So This is from Bloomsbury, and sometimes these books are just, they get under my skin. I'm like, no, I'm not going to get it. And then I read a little bit more about it, and I check out some reviews, and I'm like, okay, I'll get it. This is Big Caesars and Little Caesars, How They Rise and How They Fall from Julius Caesar to Boris Johnson by Ferdinand Mount. There you go. This book came out in 2023. All right. Let's see. I don't want to read all of this because we're running out of time, but let's see here. Okay, I just have to do it. Who said that dictatorship was dead? Oh, boy. The world today is full of strong men and their imitators. Caesarism is alive and well. This is why I bought the book, because it does. It's very timely. Yet in modern times, it's become a strangely neglected subject. Ferdinand Mount opens up a fascinating exploration of how and why Caesars seize power and why they fall. There is a comforting illusion shared by historians and political commentators from Fukuyama back to Macaulay, Mill, and Marx that history progresses in a nice straight line towards liberal democracy or socialism, despite the odd hiccup. In reality, almost every democracy, however sophisticated or stable it may look, has been attacked or actually destroyed by a would-be Caesar, from ancient Greece to the present day. Marx was wrong. This Caesarism is not an absurd throwback. It is an ever-present danger. There are big Caesars who set out to achieve total social control and little Caesars who merely want to run an agreeable kleptocracy without opposition. From Julius Caesar and Oliver Cromwell through Napoleon and Bolivar to Mussolini, Salazar, and de Gaulle, down to Donald Trump and Boris Johnson. But this is also an age of Caesar toppling. The final part of this scorching and irresistible inquiry describes how and why would-be Caesars come to grief. From the Catalan conspiracy and the gunpowder plot to Trump's march on the Capitol and the ejection of Boris Johnson by his own MPs, and ends with the defense of the grubby glories of parliamentary politics. Yes, this book was, it's a UK book, but I think it's still, it'll come from that aspect. But yeah, I'm interested. I really like the arguments. To me, it's encouraging to know that we can topple Caesars and stuff like that. Yeah, some little bit of illustration and photos throughout. So, yeah, this was at the end. I'm like, I'll just get it. So this is $4.95. $4.95. All right, moving on. Oh, this is another book by One World. Okay, I got that same publisher. Always been intrigued by this. I've covered a couple of other books downstairs that speak to this. And this is about, it's scary stuff. Prior to World War II, how the university and academics came under the thrall and embraced Nazism. To me, I'll never understand that. Educated people. So again, it's all feeding in. Do you pick up on a theme on some of these books that and the descriptions I read to you? Can you see where I'm kind of reading? I'm trying to revisit these things in history as a way to maybe counsel and guide, what we're embroiled in today. But anyway, this is Nazi Germany and the Humanities: How German academics embraced Nazism. This is edited by Wolfgang Bailis and Anson Rabenbach. Put out by One World, a UK publisher. It's a pretty decent size, guys. It says here, and I'll let you know how much that is in case you're interested. $6.95. In 1933, Jews and, to a lesser extent, political opponents of the Nazis suffered an unprecedented loss of positions and livelihood at Germany's universities. With few exceptions, the academic elite welcomed and justified the acts of the Nazi regime, uttered no word of protest when their Jewish and liberal colleagues were dismissed, and did not stir when Jewish students were barred admission. The subject of how German scholars responded to the Nazi regime continues to be a fascinating area of scholarship. In this collection, Robbenbach and Biolis bring some of the best scholarly contributions together in one cohesive volume to deliver a shocking conclusion. Whatever diverse motives German intellectuals may have had in 1933, the image of Nazism as an alien power imposed on German universities from without was a convenient fiction. Yes, this is essential reading for me. I'm very on top of this right now. It's in my mind. I'm just, yeah. I have to read this. What's nice about this is that the way it's set up. So obviously each chapter is a different essay or paper, white paper. I don't know where they were first printed, but at the end of each essay, you have, you get your endnotes, and which cites other works. You see, so, yeah, this is going to give me more, give me some more books, maybe some really obscure titles that I can check out as well. So another great pickup at Hamilton Book. What can I say? Now, this one was the most expensive one of the bunch, but for what you're getting, it's insane. I think this was a reopening, $9.95. $9.95 for this. It's a heavy book because it is rich. It's like glossy paper, heavily illustrated. Oh, it's a heavy book, but it's a beautiful one. The Reopening of the Western Mind, guys. The Resurgence of Intellectual Life from the End of Antiquity to the Dawn of the Enlightenment by Charles Freeman. This is put out by Knopf, Alfred A. Knopf. So this was $9.95. But if you can just see, like, this is, and look at this, very sturdily, like, sewn and glued binding, because this book, let me just try to rest it on my shoulder. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? This is all glossy. This is like art book paper here. This is gorgeous. I wish I could do a better job. I don't like to break spines. So that's why I'm not like manhandling it. Oh, look, what a resource. The artwork, the reproductions in here are stunning. $9.95, guys. Okay, so what do you get from this book? And Charles Freeman, he's wrote other stuff that I've liked. I thought he wrote another one. Anyway, let me just skip this to you real quick. Oh yeah, The Closing of the Western Mind. That's right, of course, duh. And here's a beautiful opening pages. Let's see here. In this wide-ranging history, Freeman traces the immense intellectual development that culminated in the Enlightenment, from political ideology to philosophy and theology, as well as the fine arts and literature. The book explores how modern science began with the conflict of classical texts and that of empirical evidence, how European conceptions of humanity, religion, and science were altered by the discovery of America. And then it says the reopening of the Western... it says a lot more than that. There's a lot to read here, but I'm running out of time. So it says the reopening of Western Mind is a major work of history. Yes, it is. And it has 145 illustrations. And the page count is like 804. So I got it for $10. And these are not... Let me just say, when I say bargain books, they're not used. They might have a remainder mark. Like, this is the extent. You see that? That's the remainder mark. It's nothing egregious, like some put like long slashes with the marker. $10. Beautiful. Beautiful book. I'm looking forward to getting into that. This book I have read a few years ago in a bound galley, and it's hard to find a hardcover of this book online unless you go to Hamilton Book, and I paid $9.95 for it because I wanted the finished copy. I don't know why I didn't get a finished copy, so I wrote a long review of it for Book Browse. It was one of the first books I did for Book Browse, so I have fond memories of it. I love this book, guys. This was such a wonderful book. This is Magdalena, River of Dreams, A Story of Columbia by Wade Davis. Wow. This book was really transportive. I mean, it's gorgeous. And I wanted, I mean, it's out in paperback, but I wanted the hardcover. This book had everything: history, like travelogue, kind of cultural studies. Yeah, and that's the thing I missed in the galley. I didn't get the color photographs. Oh, I can't. I'm rereading it. Obviously, I read it, like I said, a few years ago. I can't wait to revisit it. But what is it about for all of you who are, this is new to you? Travelers often become enchanted with the first country that captures their hearts and gives them license to be free. For Wade Davis, it was Colombia. Now in this masterly book, Davis tells of his travels on the mighty Magdalena, the river that made possible the nation. Along the way, he finds a people who have overcome years of conflict precisely because of their character, informed by an enduring spirit of place and a deep love of a land that is home to the greatest ecological and geographical diversity on the planet. Only in Colombia can a traveler wash ashore in a coastal desert, follow waterways through wetlands as wide as the sky, ascend narrow tracks through dense tropical forests, and reach verdant Andean valleys rising to soaring ice-clad summits. This rugged and impossible geography finds its perfect coefficient in the topography of the Colombian spirit, restive, potent, at times placid and calm, in moments explosive and wild. Both a corridor of commerce and a fountain of culture, the wellspring of Colombian music, literature, poetry, and prayer, the Magdalena has served in dark times as the graveyard of the nation, and yet always it returns as a river of life. At once an absorbing adventure and an inspiring tale of hope and redemption, Magdalena gives us a rare, kaleidoscopic picture of a nation on the verge of a new period of peace. Braiding together memoir, history, and journalism, Wade Davis tells the story of the country's most magnificent river, and in doing so tells the epic story of Colombia. I can't recommend this book highly enough. Like I said, I read this a few years ago. This came out 2020 by Alfred A. Knopf. And I'm not a big rereader just because there's so many things for me to read. I'm constantly doing book reviews of new things, and so it's getting dark out. We might have more rain. Let me lower the lighting in here. Constantly reading new things, so I don't have time to reread. But this is one I would reread because I remember where I think back to where I was reading it. My little dog Gidget was with me. She's no longer with me, and I just have really good memories of loving this book and annotating the heck out of the galley. And I was just like, wow, I've never read a book like this before, and it was fantastic. It made me really interested in learning more about Colombia, but I learned so much just from this book alone about the country, so I highly recommend it. What else can I say? Okay, real quick. So the last 3 books are fiction. They're like naval fiction, and I've been meaning to check this guy out because I stumbled across, he passed away recently, but I didn't realize he had such a large amount of fiction on naval history, or not naval history, but just World War II, or I don't know. It's just fiction that I wanted to check out. And this is from Mick Books, which is a big maritime publisher. And it's Douglas Reeman. So if any of you guys have read Douglas Reeman, tell me about him in the comments below. I'd like to know what your take is on him. But I love these covers. And these were super cheap. And they had more of them. But I just picked up 3 for right now that looked the most interesting to me as far as the novel or the plot goes. So Killing Ground. This is $4.95. It just says like the Western Ocean, 1942. From the bridge of HMS Gladiator, Lieutenant Commander David Howard's orders were chillingly clear. There could be no mercy. A relentless, savage war against an ever-present enemy and a violent sea, in an arena known only to its embittered survivors as the Killing Ground. HMS Gladiator was part of that war, fighting for survival in a war with no rules. And that's all it says. So I was just like, yeah, sign me up. This looks like fun. You know, I love a good military adventure novels, and he's written a lot. Wow. And Mick Books has published a lot of them. So I picked up this one for $4.95, and then I picked up his other book, also $4.95, a slimmer volume. But this is The Hostile Shore. And this one is like, it goes back a little bit older in time to the Royal Navy. Crammed with refugees, harried and bombed by enemy planes, the Sigley had struggled south in a desperate attempt to escape. Rupert Blair's family had been among the passengers on that fateful journey, in which the ship and all aboard had disappeared. 20 years later, he still hasn't forgotten, has never abandoned his obsession to discover exactly what happened. Now Rupert Blair embarks upon a journey of his own, one that will take him to a primitive, savage island in the search of the truth. Yeah, it says here, this is a thrilling tale of naval warfare from Douglas Reman, the all-time best-selling master of naval fiction, who served with the Royal Navy, oh, I see, okay, on convoy duty in the Atlantic, the Arctic, and the North Sea. So how cool is that? Yeah, he was an English novelist, Douglas Reman. And McBooks has the rights to some of these titles, so, and they're on Hamilton Book right now for like $5, guys. And this is the other one I picked up. Again, $5 book, Dive in the Sun. And it's just another, let's see, the Allies are poised for the invasion of Italy, yet the Germans hold a vital card. A floating dock, the only one in the Adriatic large enough to take a major warship. Moored at a small port near Rimini, it is exposed, vulnerable. It must be destroyed before the Germans can tow it to a safer harbor. Air, surface, and conventional submarine attacks are out of the question. Only one team can do the job and still stand a chance of surviving. The crew of His Majesty's midget submarine XE-51. So these look like fun little, wartime reads. And I think, and they have some other stories, other books on there from Ed Hamilton book by Douglas Reman for like $5 each. So here I am at 51 minutes. I kept saying that I'm going to shorten these videos, guys. It's really hard. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me for this informal, just kind of fun little book haul. I haven't done it in a while. Again, Hamilton Books, they need to know that I'm doing this for them. But anyway, it's good to share it with you guys. Let me see. I might try to make another video before the storm sets in. It's getting really dark here, but anyway. All right. Off for now, guys. I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday night, and come back soon. Thanks for joining me here at the History Shelf. Until next time, bye.